Alright everyone, we are going to continue working with some trigonometry. I just wanted to do a couple of practice problems. So if you could flip over the worksheet that I gave you that you were just filling out with the Khan Academy video and do some of these problems on the back. We're only going to do 3 of them, but I just want to give you some practice as to what you might see on the map test, and this is why we're going over this. And so we are going to begin by, let me tell you what the learning target is. So hopefully by the end of this you can say that I can use the sine, cosine, and tangent ratio, which you've learned from the previous video. You should know what those are, knowing that it's a right triangle to find either the missing side or the missing angle. Now we're going to start off again, just kind of a little review, and I know some of this is cut off just a little bit, but in order to make it big enough for you, just realize that again that these triangles here, if I'm dealing with angle A up on the top one here, alright, I'm always looking that the hypotenuse is always going to be the hypotenuse of the triangle no matter which angle I'm dealing with here. But the angle A, the opposite side is always, if I just kind of go from point A and shoot that straight out, alright, that side there is going to be the opposite. The adjacent side is always going to be the side then other than the hypotenuse that makes up angle A. So as you can see, angle A is made up of 2 lines here. The adjacent is always going to be that other side that's not the hypotenuse. So always know where the hypotenuse is. That's always the long side of the triangle. And then from there you should be able to hopefully figure out that the opposite side is, if I continue that angle, it's that side that's just opposite of the angle there, and the adjacent side is the one that is part of making up that angle. And so again, in the previous video you should have learned that we have 3 what's called trigonometric ratios using trigonometry. We have sine, which is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. We have the cosine, which is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. And we have the tan, which is opposite over adjacent. And so again, just remembering those ratios. And we had that little extra saying that in there that was, so sine was so, because it was sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse became ca, and tangent became tangent is equal to opposite divided by adjacent, which was toa. So we had SOHCAHTOA, which is kind of a neat little phrase, and so this should hopefully help you if you ever experience trigonometry problems here a little bit later. But we're going to start off with just a couple problems here. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to pause the video and I'd like you to try to tell me what D is equal to. So using the numbers that we know, so this angle here and this side here, I want you to think of, okay, how are we going to be able to figure out D? Use those trigonometric ratios that I just talked about in the previous slide, so either so, ka, or toa. Think about, okay, so what, I know the angle here, okay, I want to figure out D. What is D in terms of the angle? Alright, and I also know 9, and what side is that also associated with. So I'd like you to pause the video, and then we should be able to, and then I'm going to go through the answer here in just one sec. So I hope you were able to pause the video, and I wanted you to see what D was. So if you look at the angle here, so we have 42, we know that D is not part of that angle, so that would mean that D is part of the opposite side, and 9 is the side that basically is adjacent, because C we know is the hypotenuse here. So we know we want to find the opposite, and we know the adjacent, and so if we're thinking to ourselves, okay, opposite, adjacent, that should lead us to the fact that we should be using tan. And so what we're going to do is we should have written down that we have tan of 42 is equal to the opposite divided by my adjacent. Now maybe you weren't able to figure that out, okay? And that's fine, but hopefully in the next couple videos you should be able to hopefully set this up, because you're going to have tan of a degree is equal to your opposite over your adjacent there. Now we're going to simplify from there. We're going to solve for D. And so if we look, we have this fraction bar here, which hopefully by now we know that fraction means that we are dividing. So how do I get rid of dividing by 9? I need to multiply by 9. That's going to cross off my 9's over on the right side here, and I'm going to be left with just D is equal to 9 times tangent of 42. And so what you're going to do is you're going to take out your calculator and you're going to punch in 9, and you don't even need to write the multiply, but you could do 9 times, but you don't need to if you don't want to. But 9 tan, there should be in the middle of your calculator, there should be a tan button, and so you're going to click that, and then you're going to click 42 here. All right, and so then from there you can just hit enter, and that should give you that D was equal to 8.1. Now if it didn't, and if I forget to do this in class, please note, take a look at your calculator. If you look at the screen itself, it should say DEG off to the left side there. Okay, if it says RAD, please come and talk to me, and we should be able to figure that out and how to fix that. But I hoped in class that I was able to help you get it from RAD to DEG, or if it's already there, then that's fine. But you should have gotten an answer of 8.1. Next one that I'd like you to do is I'd like you to try to find X for me. And so you're going to pause the video, all right, think about, okay, so here's my degrees that I have, and here's a side that I know, all right, but now I want to try to find X. What is X in terms of my entire triangle? So I want you to pause this, all right, and see if you can figure this out. So hopefully you're able to. Kind of use the previous problem to be able to help you out, but we know sine of 30 here, so we know this degrees, and we know 6. 6 is the opposite side of my angle, and I want to find X, and so X is actually, even though it's kind of an awkward shape, it's actually the hypotenuse. It's the longest side of my triangle. And so this side here, so I know the opposite, and I know the hypotenuse. And so if opposite, hypotenuse, hopefully you're thinking so, which means that you're going to do the sine of 30 is equal to the opposite 6 divided by x, my hypotenuse, opposite over hypotenuse. Now this one's a little bit tricky, so I don't know if you're able to figure this one out, but hopefully you're able to at least get it set up. Here's my trick. Here's my trick to everyone. That if there is a variable in the denominator and you want to know what this variable is, you're going to want to get it out of the denominator, okay? And so how do I get rid of dividing by x? You should multiply by x, correct? Because that gets rid of my x off to the right side there, and it leaves me, just like in my previous problem, it leaves me with just my numerator, which in the previous one was d, but now is 6, okay? So here over on the left side I'm doing x times sine of 30. Well, how do I get rid of multiplying by sine of 30? Hopefully you said yourself, I'm going to divide by sine of 30 on both sides, which then leaves me with x is equal to 6 divided by sine of 30. So on your calculator, again, you're going to type in 6 divided by, and then again on that middle of the calculator off to the left side there should be a sin button, S-I-N, or sine, that's how it's pronounced. And then you're going to type in 30, and you should hit enter, and you would get x is equal to 12. So hopefully you're able to do that one. Again, if you're off a little bit on some of it, then we should check your calculator, make sure that it is actually in degrees. Okay, but we're going to keep going. One more problem I would like you to try to find, and that's a weird symbol there, but that's called theta, and that is a Greek letter that represents the it's a capital theta is what they pronounce it as, but theta is actually my degrees this time. It's not actually a side measure, but we can still use the degrees. So I want you to pause it again and try this one out, and then I will continue here in just 1 second. So what you are going to do again is you're going to take that degrees. We know the 6, which is my opposite. We know 10, that's not the hypotenuse, that's actually my adjacent, so I know opposite, adjacent, correct. We already talked about it before. That should give me with tan, because it's TOA, opposite and adjacent. Now again, I'm going to take the tan of my degrees, which is theta, which I don't quite know what that is. That's, again, a variable that they use to represent angles that you don't know. It's kind of like x. It's the same thing. Okay? So we're going to have tan of theta is equal to my opposite, 6 divided by 10. Alright, well this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because what it is basically how do I get rid of tan of something? I want to get theta all by itself. And so what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to try to break that bond, just like use the opposite operation, just like I would when I was, like, if I was adding, then of course I would use the opposite operation, which is subtract, or multiplying, I would use division, okay? But tangent, the opposite of tangent is I'm not going to divide by tan. I'm actually going to, if you can look on your calculator again, find tan for me, and then look a little bit above that, there's a tan -1 there. That's what's called a tan inverse. And so what you're going to do is you're going to take the tan inverse of both sides, because that's what's going to get rid of tangent. I'm going to take tangent and I'm going to take the tan inverse of both sides. That's what's going to keep it balanced. Now if I take the tan inverse of tan, just like if I took multiplying and then I divided, all right, it crosses it out. It leaves me with just theta here. And so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit second, which is on the top left of my calculator, tangent, second tan, which would then hopefully gives you a tan -1, and I'm going to type in that parentheses 6 divided by 10, or 0.6 if you want to simplify it there, but that should leave me, and then you're going to hit enter, and you're going to leave you with theta is equal to 30.96 degrees, which is then going to give you the actual degrees of this triangle measure here. And so again, I hope you learned something about trigonometry. I want to make sure that you are ready for the map test if this ever comes up, because some of you might actually get to it. And so again, it's just trying to help you out in case you approach these problems later. So now that you're done with that, all right, hopefully by this time we are ready to switch, and then we will continue going on with something else. So thank you for listening, and I will see you later.